Cristopher Sanchez left his start early with left forearm soreness, and the velocity was down in this one. Sinker was down 1.2 miles per hour. The changeup down 1.8 miles per hour. And notably, his velocity was up quite a bit this season. So that's something that can correlate with, a forearm injury or, something much worse than that. I would almost guarantee an IL stint here, Chris, with the possibility that this is much worse.
So there was a quote after the game. Let me see if I can find it. There was a quote that's hinted at the possibility that he wouldn't require an IL stint. Let me see. He's going to get testing. Okay, yeah, I can't find it right now, but that was one thing that I saw. Not expecting any structural damage was what Rob Thompson said. We'll reevaluate. We'll know in the next couple of days. So yeah, I think an IL stint is certainly the most likely outcome. Anytime you're dealing with a forearm strain, teams just aren't likely to take that risk, right? Just sit him down even for the minimum if you have to. The thing I struggle with, right? Because whenever these injuries happen, people are always like, I knew he was going to get hurt when I saw him throwing harder. And it's like, well, okay. One, no, you didn't, but sure. Let's grant that you knew he was going to get hurt when he started throwing harder. But also the reason to get excited about Cristopher Sanchez is because he was throwing harder. Like that this is the constant struggle when it comes to fantasy baseball, because a lot of people will do the throwing harder, that's a red flag. And it's like, yeah, but you have to draft someone.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is the thing. It's like, okay, there's always that graphic that goes around of like the leaders in velocity with the red X over them. And we knew they were, but it's like, right, but that's also mostly a list of the best pitchers in baseball. And at some point, you can just build your whole staff out of Jose Quintana, but like at some point you have to get good pitchers, and good pitchers tend to be guys who throw hard, and a guy throwing harder is a reason to be conservative because of the apparently higher injury risk. But you're also going to miss out on pitcher breakouts if you don't target guys who are throwing harder, because if they can keep it up, it's like what we're seeing with Max Meyer, where he goes from not even a major league caliber pitcher last season to looking like a legitimate breakout, in large part because he's throwing a mile and a half harder. That's not all of it, but like we wouldn't be as upset about losing Cristopher Sanchez if he wasn't having a breakout season because he's throwing harder. Like that's the thing that's always tough. And I don't know what the answer is, right? Like I'm just talking out loud here. I just, yes, it is potentially a risk factor when a guy's throwing harder, but you also can't just take those guys off the board. Maybe it's an argument for not pushing Cristopher Sanchez as high as we did in drafts, where he was going like 160 early on and ended up like a top 100 pick in some drafts by the end. And like, I think his ADP was like 120 over the final week. Maybe you can argue that we should be a little more hesitant with that, but it's also the only reason we're that upset about him getting hurt is because he looked like an absolute ace,
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly tough. I mean, this kind of push-pull that we have between chasing velocity and looking for breakouts and wanting talented pitchers on our team, but also trying to find this balance of like who's going to get hurt. And I still don't know that we really have any answers. Like, do we really know who's going to get hurt every year? I mean, after the fact, you could say, all right, yeah, well, like, these guys that are throwing harder, like him and Ryan Weathers, they both go down with injury. There might be a correlation there. There's also a correlation with throwing harder leading to success and just being a better pitcher. So I totally get why pitchers are doing that. I kind of wish it wasn't the case, because I think that has contributed to a lot of pitching injuries.
Oh, absolutely.
look, man, these guys don't have the longest shelf life, and they're trying to get paid. They're trying to make money, and the best way to do that is to perform well on the baseball field. And again, throwing harder, it's going to give you a better chance of performing better on the baseball field. So, like, I don't blame pitchers for doing that.
And here's the thing: if hitters are geared up for 94 mile per hour fastballs now, that's the average. The average fastball is 94 miles per hour. I've been watching baseball long enough that still blows my mind. Because, like, if you sat 94 20 years ago, you were legit hard thrower. And now that's just normal. Everybody does that. If you could magically tomorrow make every pitcher average 2 miles per hour less on their fastballs, the likeliest thing that would happen is they'd all get bombed. Or at least get hit work.
We would have a huge offensive output season.
This is the problem with it's an arms race. And pitchers are always trying to throw harder and add more spin and add more break on their pitches. And hitters catch up every year. And that's the thing, is that you can't undo the trends that we're seeing. And until someone finds a way to make a 92 mile an hour fastball that's as effective as a 99 mile an hour fastball with the same movement characteristics, people are going to keep chasing velocity. And that includes fantasy players and fantasy analysts. And you should. Yeah. It just, you do have to keep in mind that it's not all positive. You know, there's no one weird trick that solves pitching forever.
That one caveat that you threw in there of with the same movement profile, right? Because we do see pitchers succeed with lower velocity, but it usually comes with throwing from a weird angle or
funky delivery or
kind of deception involved with that fastball. And maybe more pitchers should be trying to do exactly that. Maybe that's
there was a piece on Baseball Prospectus today. It was Matthew Trueblood who wrote it, about how the average arm angle, we've only been able to track it for a few years, but it has ticked down a little bit every year. And so far this year, it's the lowest that we've ever seen, which I think makes sense because everybody's chasing that low release angle so you can get more rise on and get the horizontal approach, vertical approach. I don't know. There's so many acronyms out that it's hard to keep up with, but like that's what everybody's chasing now. And I know we need to move on, but the ironic thing is, it's like I said earlier, what hitters struggle with is not one specific movement profile or one specific arm slot or whatever. It's hitters struggle with what they see less of. And so, 99 mile an hour fastballs, they don't see that many of them, relatively speaking. They're also just moving faster, so that's why they're harder to hit. But like what a lot of the research has shown is that pitchers who can be surprising, pitchers who can be different, pitchers who can be weird tend to find more success than you would otherwise expect. Shodi Managa, I think, is a great example of this. Yeah. Short lefty, throws from a low arm slot, four-seamer splitter like 80% of the time. There's just nobody else that pitches like that in Major League Baseball. And I think that's a big part of why he's had so much success since coming over, is he's just, you can't train it, except now they have those traject machines and they can actually train that specifically. So I don't know. It's fascinating. I don't know what the answers here are. So I feel like we should just move on at some point.
We have derailed the podcast, but I think it's a very useful, more baseball conversation.
It's just interesting.
Yeah,
to talk about. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to add on Cristopher Sanchez, if this does turn out to be a long-term injury, maybe this accelerates Andrew Painter getting to the bigs. So that was something that I thought of. Maybe not. Maybe he's still coming up in June or July, whatever it might be. But maybe there's a chance.
He did look crazy good in his. I don't know. Has he made 2 starts yet? I only saw the one.
Yeah, I only saw one.
Outrageously good in that one.
And it was a very low level of the minors. So I don't want to put like too much on it, but one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, and we will see him at some point this season.